Go ahead.
Okay, my name's Julian Stusynski. I was born in this area, born in 1949. I went to school at Stranko's High School, which is now non-existent. Actually, I went to a country school for the first 8 years. And
Where's that where you live? What do you call that corner?
England Store.
England Store.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Grew up in the corner of what we call England Store. And basically, my life was filtered around Assumption Church of Florian and England Store for the first 18 years of my life. And right now I'm living a mile away from my home farm, which I do. I farm with my brother David, my young son Daniel. And our farm site is 102 years old now. So it's a well-established place.
Okay. Were you drafted or?
Yes, I was drafted.
What year was that?
1969.
Okay.
And I'm not one of those guys who, first of all, I'm a Christian first, I'm American second, and then I have political views from that point on. But that's how my life revolves. And I went to basic training with my, who was my best friend, kind of my best friend at that time. His name was Tom Price, and of course he died in Vietnam. And lo and behold, I ended up marrying his sister. You went
into service same time as Tom?
Yes, him and I went through basic and AIT together.
Okay.
And the only thing I can remember about him is his great big smile.
Okay. And where'd you go to basic?
Fort Lewis.
Fort Lewis, Washington. And how'd you get there?
Oh, that was a fun time. 3 days on the train and drinking Everclear all the way through it. And in fact, we even ran out. We had to stop when they stopped in Montana.
So you're the reason that the rest of us couldn't drink in the bar in the. Because when I went, it was they wouldn't let us go into the bar car because the people before us ruined it.
We never went to the bar. We had our own supply.
Okay.
In fact, we had a guy from Middle River. We called him Everclear, and he was the one that was the evil doer of all this stuff.
Sure.
But anyway, 3 days of Everclear. In fact, we ran out, so we had to, when we stopped in Montana, we had to go get some more.
Was it Havre, Montana?
Probably.
Yep, okay.
And who knows, you knew you were in Montana, but you didn't know where you were, you know. And anyway, we paid for it. When we got to Fort Lewis, I remember my drill sergeant. His name was Reese, and he was from Montana. He was a big boy. He made us low crawl in wet sawdust until we sobered up. So then it was, actually I met a lot of guys. We were from Merle Haugen, Jacobson boys.
Oh, you
Joey
went
Tulobotsky. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you were in basic at the same time they were?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Me and my deceased brother-in-law, we were in the same platoon, and then they were in C platoon, which were what they call the mortar carriers and stuff like that. Yeah, that was a pretty good time. It was like, what, 15 weeks? But you know, people say that our military don't have a heart, but when we got done with basic, we couldn't go home. We couldn't do anything, you know. You were in Washington. You ain't going to go to Montana or go home to Minnesota, you know, for a few days and come back. They provided us with maybe a sponsor family, an ex-military guy. I think he was in the Navy.
So
that's where we stayed.
What was basic like for you?
You know, that's one kind of thing that the guys from this world, I mean, we knew nothing of what was out there. You know, when you get to basic training and stuff like that, it's a new world. Because we had guys from New York in our company, we had guys from California. So we had a variety. And it was an experience. Okay. And it's too bad if it wasn't for war.
Explain some of it. I mean, what'd you do?
As far as
basic training, I mean.
Well, it was a lot of running. You know, running with we'd go on 12-mile forced marches, full pack, you know, and it was.
So did you go out in the field a lot?
Oh yes, went out in the field a lot. Yeah, we got.
Pup tents?
Yes, tents. Yep, I mean, infantry was, you know, you're out there.
Yep.
Yep, and it was a lot of grueling calisthenics. you know, sit-ups, push-ups, chin-ups.
So, and you had to run a mile in a certain amount
Oh,
of time?
absolutely. Yeah, we had to do it in
Run, dodge,
5
jump.
minutes.
Yeah.
It was 5 or 6 minutes. And I was one of those what you would call a windsucker. Those were, they called horses windsuckers that couldn't win races because they were breathing through their mouth instead of through their nose. And you had to train yourself to breathe through your nose.
So, did you do the gas chamber or anything like that?
Oh yes, that was more in, yeah, that was, I had an experience with you when you, my straps on my gas mask broke when we went to CS gas. And so they gave me another one, but I forgot to tighten it up and clear it. So when I was crawling through, my mask filled up with mucus from the, I mean, you'd be surprised how much junk you have in your sinuses and that. It filled up. And I didn't know what to do. I turned around and there was one guy who went nuts and he stood up. And the drill sergeant just decked him. Well, what do you do?
Yeah.
So I said, well, I think I'll keep roll crawling, and I made it through. Took off my mask. One good thing, I didn't have a cold for 3 years.
Cleaned out really good.
Oh, yes. But yeah, it was, I mean, came out in really good shape.
So did you get to crawl under machine gun fire?
Oh, yes. But they had tracers, you know, so that you knew, I mean, you knew where the rounds were. Because every once in a while there was a tracer round coming up, which is a lit up line, you know, lit up ammo.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So, do you have graduation?
Yes, we did. And I'll tell you that's spectacular, you know. All those young men, you know, marching in unison. And then,
That's one thing you learned after 2 months in basic training
you
was
know,
how to march.
there is a reason for that. Because you always had somebody who was in front of you who was walking, instead of left, right, he was walking right, left. Well, what you gonna do? You're gonna trip over him. You know, so they're basically trying to teach you that you gotta think together. Because you have to know what the next guy to your left and what the guy to your right is thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Your life depends on that guy next to you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that was, yeah.
So you get done with basic training. Where'd you go from there? AIT? Or?
Yes, but like I said, we had like maybe 3 days between basic and AIT, because I stayed at Fort Lewis for AIT also, which is advanced infantry training.
Correct.
We stayed with a family, me and my deceased brother-in-law, for about 3 days.
See, I never heard of that before. 3 days you stayed with this family?
Yeah.
This is something that was arranged on...
They must have, because the guy was a dentist and he was a retired Navy person.
So how many guys stayed with him?
Me and my brother-in-law, Tommy.
Okay.
Yeah, it was, and they were a Catholic family. We went to church with them. Yeah.
Okay.
I even helped make up my bed. Yeah, they trained you. I mean, they trained you. I mean, really, to be meticulous. Like there was a reason for making up your bed.
Mm-hmm.
There was a reason to organize your food locker, your locker.
Yep. So after those 3 days, you went
right to basic or AIT.
Yeah, AIT. Okay.
And I'm glad I went to AIT, because we had one guy who did not make it out of basic. It's because he disobeyed orders. He went to the donut shop. You could not go anywhere.
They recycle them?
They recycled them, and I'll tell you what, you do not want to be recycled.
And what's that mean, recycled?
You have to go through basic all over again. And that is not a fun deal.
Yeah, we had 3 guys that got shin splits and had to recycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, explain basic training, or AIT, I'm sorry.
AIT is just a higher learning of basic. You get more rifle training. You get trained in grenade launchers to throwing. You know, throwing a grenade is not so easy like they show it on TV, because you don't kick back and throw it like a football. You just take your arm and just swing it back and just like how would I say, you kind of loop around and you let it go.
There's no carry through.
There is, and you better know how to do that, because if you let it go too soon, it's going to land pretty close to you. So it's not the easiest piece of pineapple to throw.
So was AIT just more
advanced,
basic training,
yeah.
more advanced training?
Yeah.
Okay, and were these guys you knew from Argyle, were they going through the same
Yes,
time?
we all stayed together.
You all stayed together the whole
Pretty
time?
much yeah.
Okay. Okay, so anything else you want to talk about AIT?
It was AIT, well, actually, they had problems with meningitis, and so you really had to stay on base, but me and Tommy, we kind of snuck out. We went across the parade ground to, we visited Ted Kuzner. He was in basic when we were in AIT. So, I mean, you had a little bit more liberty.
Did you have to do, were you in wood barracks?
Yes.
Did you have to open the windows 6 inches at top, 6 inches at the bottom?
No,
Were you doing that
I don't
time?
remember that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, if you did something bad, you hung from the rafters, for quite a while. And it only took one guy to make everybody hang. Because, like I said,
Right.
one bad makes everybody bad.
Okay. All right. So when you get out of AIT, I'm going to ask this question: do you have a parade too for
Oh, absolutely.
graduation?
Yeah. I can tell you one thing though, we had some guys kind of snuck out, and actually we ended up with getting beer in our barracks. That was a no-no, of course.
Did you have any leave while you were in AIT? Did you get to go
No.
into town,
No.
home, or anything like that?
No.
Nothing. Okay.
No, it was not.
So where were your orders for after AIT?
I got accepted to NCO school at Fort Benning, which they call us 90-day wonders.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you what,
Shake and bake?
shake and bake.
Yeah.
And then we had, of course, there was officers training school, which was basically the same thing, only you become a second lieutenant. But I'll tell you what, I was kind of watching episodes, on the news about the Ukraine and all this, and they had a military expert on there, and he was explaining to us the reason we are good at what we do as a military. The Russian army does not have sergeants like us or second lieutenants like us. So if one falls, there's somebody to take over. And they don't have that. That's why they fall apart.
They don't have the leadership.
They don't have the leadership.
Okay.
So you can laugh at us as being second-day wonders, but, there was a reason that they started these schools.
Yep. Yep.
Because a lot of second lieutenants, and I'm sorry,
So explain some of this leadership school.
it's leadership. I mean, it's the same kind of platoon. One becomes a squad leader, and they just keep rotating you, so you all get to be squad leaders. And sometimes, when you're going through training exercises, like you're going through the jungle and you're searching an enemy.
Did they send you out in the field with like a knife and a match or something?
They send us out with a compass and a map, and you're supposed to find your way back. And believe you me, it works. I did it. They dropped you in the swamps of.
So how many days were you out doing that? Just one? Or?
No. They'd send you out like for a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we found out that Georgia has red clay sand. But that was you're by yourself. You have to find your way back.
Yeah. You find out what you're made of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you went through this training. How long was that?
That's 90 days.
90 days.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, we were there in August started in August. And I'll tell you want to be in Fort Benning in August, that's a no-no. They even had to stop calisthenics because when you were perspiring so hard, the water was running down your eyes, you couldn't keep your eyes open. So we did our running in the mornings, like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Did they throw you out of a perfectly good airplane?
That was after NCO school. Because I was through NCO school from August till November.
Okay.
And then, believe me, Airborne wasn't even in my thoughts. I met this guy from Nashville, Tennessee. His name was Danny Sullivan. And we became very good friends. And through him, I learned to drink Canadian Club with orange juice. And the favorite saying, they all had a favorite saying out of Tennessee, "Oh, I'll tell you what." And also, he decided he was going airborne. So I went with him. But what the heck, it was $70 a month more. But that was a learning experience. That was like 3 weeks long. 3 to 4 weeks, yeah. But and you made 5 jumps. And there was a lot of hard training. I mean, a lot of more running. It was more physical training than anything because you already had the basics on everything else.
We were talking earlier and you said something about somebody crossed your air.
Well, yeah, I on my 4th jump, it was our first mass jump because before that, the first 3 you jumped out, then you waited a while, then another one went, and then another one went. You know. I forgot though. They did lift us up on a big tower to learn how to do our landings, but they had just plowed the darn ground around it. So when you landed, you stuck, you ended up about 6 inches in the dirt. And the drill sergeant comes up to me and said, "Don't you know how to land?" "Drill sergeant, how the hell are you supposed to land in soft dirt?" So he made me run around the tower I don't know how many times. And I was so mad at him, I said, "You want me to run some more? I'm a Pollock, I can take anything." Anyway, so on my 4th jump, it was a big mass jump. I mean, if you watch paratroopers, that's what they call a mass jump, and they're all going out and flying out real bad. And there's like 2 or 3 planes going at one time, dumping, you know. So first thing you do is you count to 4 and you look up to see if that hole is there, you know, because that means you're opened. And I'm getting close to the ground, and I'm going to back up a little bit. I'll tell you, jumping out of an airplane is perfectly safe. It is not. You can feel the rivets, you know, vibrating up there out of the plane. It is a wonderful feeling. It's like being in heaven when you're looking down, and it's just, you don't know how fast you're falling because you're oblivious to the speed until you get maybe 100, 200 feet from the ground. Then you know you're coming down because you're coming down at about 35 miles an hour. It's not like this skydiving stuff. You're coming down at 2 or 3 miles an hour. So my buddy comes over me and he takes my air. I'm about 100 feet from the ground. And I hit the ground. The last thing I remember is my drill sergeant giving me hell, or one of my training officers for giving hell that I didn't land properly. No, of course, what can I say? The last thing I remember is sitting down in a bus. And it was about like a half-mile walk to the bus. I do not remember from the landing, training officer giving me hell, and walking to the bus.
You had a concussion.
So I had a concussion. But that was my 4th jump, and they were telling me, "You can't make your 5th jump." And I said, excuse the language, like hell. I went through 4 weeks, I'm gonna do my 5th jump, you know. And I did qualify. All that training, I was not get my wings.
Let it go, yep.
Yep. And of course, from there, I went home for a little while. And then from that point on, then it was back to Fort Lewis as a training NCO.
Really?
Oh yes, you go back because, you know.
You were a DI then?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
You know, and you were with a squad for...
Did you wear the hat and everything? Or?
Oh yes.
Yeah. Because people don't know what a DI hat looks like.
Well, actually, we did not get to wear those fancy, nice hats, you know, because we were a regular, you know, NCO. We were not drill sergeants.
Okay.
But we worked with the drill sergeants. We controlled a squad. I had a squad. We each had a squad. There was like, yeah, there was 2 squads in each barracks, one in, you know, upstairs and downstairs, and the one thing nice about that is you got to give the orders to giving push-ups.
So out of the guys that you went to basic with, you got to go to Fort Lewis. The rest of them kind of went to Vietnam, didn't they?
Yeah, and that was, yes, and that's where me, and because when I left AIT, I went to NCO school, and Tom Price, he went to Vietnam.
Right, and so did Joe Tulubowski and Merlin Hogan. And
They all went, yeah.
They all
I
went.
never asked Joe, I think, yeah, they all went to Vietnam and
Yep,
stuff like
they were
that.
all
I'm not
involved.
sure where they all went, you know.
Yep.
So, yeah, and
They were, Joe was with the Americal division over there, same division
Yeah.
I was in, yeah.
Mhm.
And I think Merlin was too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I kind of, was it, yeah, Galen was the one that got really shot up over
Galen
there.
was one, and Jim was also there.
Yes, I know he was there, yeah.
Jacobson boys, yep.
Yeah. Yep. So, but anyway, to NCO, what I had back, I was there for, I suppose, 6 weeks at Fort Lewis. And then I got to get home, went home again for a little while, and then went off to Fort Ord, and we got there. Man, I said, I don't want to live here. It was so dang hot, I couldn't breathe.
In Fort Ord,
Oh yeah, that was
California.
Yeah. And then we, processed for Vietnam, and I think I landed at Cam Bay. And then, but I'm going to back up again a little bit.
Okay.
I did end up with a profile, so I did not have any of the, maybe God was looking out for me, I don't know.
What does that mean, profile?
I got profiled because when I was in Fort Lewis as a squad leader, NCO squad leader, I woke up one morning and I could not feel my lower extremities. Now, that had to have been from the cause, of landing, dropping 100 feet, and it did not affect me till then. And then when I did get to Fort Ord, I mentioned it to them, and they sent me to, what do you want to call a spine specialist or what?
Okay.
And he accused me of trying to get out of going to Vietnam. And I says, I don't care.
Did you have orders at this time?
Yes.
Okay.
I says, I do not care. You're not going to accuse me of trying to shirk myself out of my duties. I said, you just tell me that I have something wrong with me. Because I'm not going to go over there out in the field carrying a pack and all of a sudden my legs go numb. And I said, you just tell me if there's something wrong. If there's not, ship me over. I don't care. I'm going.
Okay.
And
So how much time do you have left in service when you...
it was at least a year. It was a year, exactly.
Okay.
Because I got to Fort Ord, it was April. And I landed in Cam Bay, and I ended up going...
Where, did you fly out of Fort Ord?
Oh, yes.
Not Oakland, huh? Okay.
No. Well, I guess I should say I flew out of Oakland.
Yep.
But I went through Fort Ord.
That's usually where they...
Yeah. Excuse me a little bit there.
That's okay.
But I got to Cam Bay, and then they jeeped me up to a place called Zion.
What year was this?
It was April of 1970.
Okay.
And I ended up by south of Long Bend, a place called Zion.
Okay.
And it was a battalion group for training MAT teams, which was military advisor teams that actually went out and helped train villages to take care of themselves. I'm sorry, that was a failure. Because their philosophy was they would go in, we're going to take this town, we're going to back out. They never held on to a position. Never. Like World War II and Korea, that was totally different. I mean, Vietnam War was totally something different. They had it in their head that they didn't have to hold a position, which was wrong.
Pacifying.
Pacifying, yeah, that was a good word for it. That was totally wrong.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah, I ended up, and there was everybody, if they ever hear of the battle for taking Hamburger Hill, it was a mountain. I went by it many times, and it was just a little molehill. If we would have had one of Trump's mother of all bombs, we could have wiped it out in one shot. I mean, they lost a lot of men there. I don't know if it was the Big Red One or that dealt with that hill. I can't remember. Maybe somebody else knows more about it than I do. But it was just a little hill when they got done. They were dug in so deep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, that was what I did. That's what I said. I ended up in battalion. I was working. Then I went from battalion. I went to the company for a while. And I was actually, Philip Kuzner come and visited me then. He walked in, I'm looking at this guy. Who the hell are you? It took a while for me to recognize him. He flew up to visit me.
That worked out good.
Oh, absolutely. It was a pretty good deal. And
I'm trying to get him to interview too. If you talk to him, I'm working on
I
him.
think he had some bad stuff, you know.
I'm working on him.
But he doesn't have to tell you about that stuff.
No, no.
And yeah, we went to you had a lot of entertainment. You had beer for 25 cents. You could drink a lot of beer and drink a lot of whiskey pretty cheap.
Did you have some floor shows?
Oh yes, I'm afraid we did. And they had bands, but they had all the singers were topless girls that were, I think they were half French and half Philippine. And we were sitting there one night, him and Philip and I were drinking away, and all of a sudden somebody threw a CS grenade into the building.
What's a CS grenade?
It's gas. Pure as gas and a grenade, you know.
Tear gas, yep.
Tear gas, yeah. It's worse than tear gas. And, because it can totally screw you up. And it can kill you if you don't get out of there in a hurry. So Philip is sitting there and he doesn't know what's going on. I just grabbed him by the collar and somebody broke the window, and there was a big window, broke it out, and we all went running. And I knew there was garbage dumps on each side, so we had to kind of feather our way out. Mm-hmm. We could see nothing. Our eyes were tears, and yeah.
So you spent a whole year in Vietnam?
Just about, because that was when President Nixon gave us early out, so I got out about a month early.
Good. And what was your rank at the time?
I was Sergeant E5.
Good.
And of course, I had a saying, re-enlistment officer, NCO was coming trying to re-enlist me. And I said, re-enlistment NCO, about face. I said, I am so short, I'm shorter than the shortest blade of grass over here.
I'm so short I could swing my legs on a cigarette paper.
Yeah. If it weren't for the war, I might have stayed in. But I met a lot of NCOs who were divorced, alcoholics, and I said that was not for me.
So where'd you fly out of? Back to the States?
Out of St. Place, Cameron Bay.
Cameron Bay?
Ended up at...
What was it like when you had Freedom Bird left the ground?
I still remember it. Yeah, goosebumps, a sigh of relief.
A little noisy?
Yes.
People
it's weird, and I don't know if you've ever asked any guys who left there if they have dreams missing their plane. You know, I've had them.
Oh, if you would have missed it.
That I missed a plane, you know, and even when I was in my company, I had a feeling that I was overstaying my stay. That, do you have my orders to leave? I had that experience more than once.
Good.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, I know guys a lot had it worse. I mean, guys who came back that were never the same. Friends that lost their thumbs. I had an NCO who was in charge of me when I was in AIT, and I found out later on he'd gotten killed. You know, so
Yep.
I considered him a friend, even though he was a rank above me.
Good. So you came back into Oakland then, or?
Yep.
And you mustered out there?
I mustered out.
Did you get a free steak supper, or?
No, I
like
could have cared less.
Okay. And they give you your Class A's, and
Yes.
then you flew home?
Yeah.
What was it like? Did you ever run into any problems with people when you went through the airport?
You know, this part of the world was good.
Good. So you get home?
You never had a bad deal back here, and even when you wear this cap right now, they're always.
Well, I think 911 kind of brought a lot of veterans out of the closet. I mean,
I never was in the closet. Never.
there were a lot of them that were.
Yeah.
Yep. And so you get home, and what did you do?
I raised a lot of hell, drank a lot of beer.
Seems like a theme with you there, Julian.
Well, I It's just a Polish tradition, you know, you have to hold up the Polish tradition of drinking. But, you know, I never overdid it, you know. Some guys could go and get drunker than heck, and the next day they're drinking again. Me, I couldn't look at it for a month, you know. I would just celebrate. And
we were all young back then.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, ended up marrying my best friend's wife, or sister.
Yeah.
So.
And that was Tom Price's.
Yes.
Sister. Yeah.
And I never. I mean, when I was at NCO school in Fort Benning when I heard about it, and I felt so lost. You know, you couldn't do nothing. I couldn't really cry, but about 30 years later I broke down bad. My wife couldn't understand it, but I said, you weren't there. You weren't with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a bad deal.
Yep, and like I said, I always see his smile. It was just a big grin.
I never knew him, but I heard.
Yeah, he was really.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, you farmer?
Yes.
Is that what you did all your life, or?
Pretty much. Well, I went to work at Arctic Cat for a while, and it just wasn't for me. I did not like. I could not see being indoors. I could not see myself sitting at a turntable where I was welding front ends. You know, I could not see doing that.
Okay.
So I went back to work for Clarence Carlson here out of Stephen.
Doing what?
Farming.
Okay.
Worked with his sons, Ron and David. And then I worked for Ron for up to '96. And then I worked for Donald Kriskevich for a couple of years and his son Jeff. And then my dad decided to retire. And then so I went to work with my youngest brother who was 10 years younger than me.
Do what?
Farming.
Farming.
My dad
okay.
retired, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we farmed together I've been farming since. And I probably would have retired, but my youngest son wanted to get involved in it. And so we're three of us, Daniel, David, my brother, my son Daniel, and I.
Okay.
And I'm 73 now, gonna be. But I'll stay on a little bit longer. I mean, I'm in good shape. Other than a few, I can't, sit too long. It's just like sore bones and.
Yeah. So is there anything about your military career you wish you'd have done different, or?
No. It was a good experience. I'm sorry. Other than Vietnam, it was good. I wish today a lot of kids, they would bring back the Peace Corps. Because too many young kids nowadays, they're feeling too sorry for themselves. They got it good, and yet they're complaining. Let them go out there. Let them go to Vietnam and see these people living in houses made out of cardboard and finding any scraps of tin and eating their own dogs, eating rats. That's how bad it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Julian, is there anything else you want to add?
No. If there's any young person out there who wants to get into the military, it's not that bad a deal.
Good.
And I know it's tough. Like I said, Linda lost her brother, and we've lost friends. But the only thing that angers me is that a lot of these young kids nowadays don't appreciate what everybody did for us, what we did for them.
Yep. And that's why we have Veterans Day, to honor the veterans.
Absolutely.
Well, Julian, I want to thank you for doing this interview.
Okay.
And I want to thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yeah.